Welcome to episode 270 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and Guy Searle is back on the show. I missed you, buddy.
Hey,
Welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. It is good to be back. It has been. I was kind of out of commission for a while, but I'm feeling much better, so here I am.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to finally get you on here.
Finally,
and have some fun talking.
A couple times it's been like, I can't make it.
Yeah, no.
But I'm feeling better.
Good. And then, of course, Kelly Gamet is back as well.
I am.
Kelly, great to have you back. How you doing?
It's nice to be here.
Good. I'm glad you're here. And then last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. And I feel like I showed up on the right night so that I can just bask in the glory that is this party.
Yes. This is
it has been quite the party so far.
We've had quite the pre-show discussion. But it was a lot of fun. That's why I have you guys on here, because you're always fun to be on here. So
because then you don't have to do any work. You just introduce everybody and like go make a sandwich and then take care of the rest, right?
And go.
Yes.
So Apple, what a week! I'm out.
Yeah, it is going to be a week. We're pre-week of the big announcement next week, which is like what as we record this about 5 days. It's not too far off. We're going to talk about that. Well as a lot of very important updates that came through today as we record this. I'm going to talk about that and beta as always. And I've got a couple of tips, and we will be just talking here because I always got some great news stories to hit on to talk about. So why not get started and talk about the was a kind of a big story. I know we're going to have some good dialogue about this one. Apple provides further clarity on why it abandoned the plan to detect CSAM in iCloud photos. Apple, just this past week, it provided its fullest explanation yet to last year abandoning its controversial plan to detect the known CSAM in iCloud photos. So if you don't remember this is scanning for inappropriate child and really I don't even want to say it, the child sexual abuse
inappropriate
material,
content,
very inappropriate content. And this is going back to August of 2021 when they announced their plans they were going to do this, and then they got a lot of pushback and security and worried that our privacy is being violated and all this other fun stuff. So, Kelly, what do you think on this? Did you find it surprising that Apple just took a backspace and went the other way?
Eventually, no, I did not. The thing that I thought was interesting was more the level of transparency we got with this, because usually Apple just sort of goes with, this is what we do now. And whether it is the exact opposite of what they were doing 5 minutes ago, or it's something that they've slowly evolved into, like it's usually just, this is what we do now. And if anybody asks about it, they go, well, what you need to understand here is this is what we do now. And that's it. And like sometimes, as I'm sure Jeff can attest, sometimes you can hear the Jedi hand wave as they say, these aren't the photos you're looking for or whatever. It doesn't matter. So to have them come out and actually, like, first of all, I'm glad that they did come out and have a response and be upfront about it. I am glad of that. I appreciate any time when there's transparency around a huge change like this that's really impactful. I always like to know why, whether it was going to stay and they came out and said these are the reasons we didn't change our minds, or they come out and say like this is what we've done to evolve our stance, or how we're going to mitigate the stuff that people were so worked up about. I always appreciate the transparency of that. We do get a lot of places that go, we fixed it now, everything's fine, we're all fine here, how are you? And then that's it. And they never tell us anything about what happened or the fallout of it. And then it just sort of turns into like a bad PR onion and just more layers fall away. And if you think that's not a thing, you should go put LastPass into the search engine of your choice and see what that is like. Because if you want to see a bad PR onion, I feel like that's an object lesson going forward. Yeah. Anyway, so I appreciated that they that they did come out and make a statement about changing this position. I'm also glad that they did change their position, because this is one of those walk the walk kind of things where, Apple said, because I get frustrated with Apple sometimes. We talk about this sometimes over on Mac Voices Live, where Apple tries to bang the privacy drum, and then on the front page of the App Store on iOS every single day is TikTok. And it's not that there's anything inherently bad about TikTok, but nobody can tell me for sure that there's not. And that's the part that is causing people who don't really understand to do things like ban TikTok in the state of Montana and things like that. Like, that's where it's coming from, because nobody can independently verify that none of the stuff, that the entire contents of your phone aren't being slurped up and shipped off to a server somewhere else. So anytime there's transparency around something like this, anytime there's something where Apple actually can do something to say, like, we do take privacy seriously, I'm always glad for that.
Good. Guy, what do you think on this?
Yeah. The moment I heard about this, my first response was, yay, Apple's going to go after these people that are doing something that is just so abhorrent. But, the devil's in the details. And there was no way to have something like this work without kind of also breaking their word as far as privacy goes. So it doesn't surprise me that they've just kind of said, okay, well, we would like to do this, but we can't do it without breaking our word to every user out there that it's going to be 100% accurate, 100% valid, and 100% not going to look at stuff that maybe a lot of our users don't want us to look at, that is completely fine and not illegal or anything. So they've just kind of said, until something comes along that's better, we're just not going to do it. And that's too bad, because this is something that I would love to see go away, and all of the people that have anything to do with this receive the just punishment that they deserve.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? What do you think?
Apple made the right decision in the end. They made the wrong decision in the beginning, and all the reasons that they gave for deciding to abandon CSAM are all the discussions that they had to have had before they even said, hey, we're going to do the CSAM thing. And based on those discussions, they should have decided, the risks outweigh the benefits. And had they moved forward with this, it would have created an infrastructure that opened the door for state-sponsored surveillance just across the board. And because this isn't the kind of thing that you set up and it can't expand to other parts of your phone. That's not how this works. It's like putting in a secret back door so the government can bypass encryption. Once that's there, it opens up the whole thing. That said, yes, the reason for wanting to do this absolutely makes sense, and doing everything we can to protect children from really bad stuff is, there's value in that. But there are ways to do it that are better than this plan was. And you also have to be careful to not use, but what about the children, as an excuse to do anything that impacts all of our privacy.
Reach.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and move on, because we probably could go longer on this topic, but we've got lots of stuff to cover today. Let's talk a little bit about Apple again expanding their horizons here in classical music. Apple is to acquire a major classical music label called BIS Records. It's a Swedish classical music record label. It intends to fold it right into the Apple Music Classic and Platoon. BIS Records was founded in 1973, and it was focused on a range of classical music with particular focus on works that are not well representative by existing recordings. So again, it's another piece of classical music that Apple's really looking to expand upon their catalog here. As we recall, back in 2021, Apple announced that they had bought Primephonic. They folded it into Apple Music, and then now they have that dedicated Apple Music classical app that earlier this year we talked about. It's after the app's release, Apple had said they had been working with classical music artists and institutions to offer exclusive content and recordings. This acquisition seems to appear to be the latest move to bolster that service. Jeff, what's your thoughts on classical music? I know you like classical music.
I'm very much a classical music guy, and I saw this announcement, and the gesture that I made, I won't do because this is a family show. Honestly, I don't give a crap ball about this, and I'm angry that I don't give a crap ball about this. The reason I don't care is because Apple has not actually given us a useful classical music system yet, limiting it to an iPhone app where I can't even listen to music at the audio quality that I want, and I can't play it on the devices that I want. Whatever. This is a big nothing burger for me until Apple fixes that, at which point I will then reevaluate and decide if I'm going to be happy or if I'm going to stay a cynical doink about the whole thing.
And Guy, do you give a crap ball about this?
My crapola meter is like way low. It's like super way low. If it's Rolling Stones, Beatles, Little Richard, those are my classics.
That's classic, not classical. Guy.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, isn't classical what you do when you talk to somebody on the phone about it?
It's
and tell them to play the Rolling Stones.
Well, hello, Master Guy.
Exactly.
It is an absolute pleasure to make
thank
your
you.
acquaintance.
Oh,
That's a
thank you.
classy call.
Do you have any Grey Poupon?
Yeah, we've both done classy calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
it's a
all right.
reach.
How about
yeah.
you? How about you, Kelly? Before we wrap
David,
this
you
one
brought
up?
this on yourself.
I did.
Remember that.
This is not the podcast you're looking for. Move along.
Yeah.
I like classical music. I listen to a lot of classical music at work and a lot of film score stuff at work. So orchestral, a lot of that. But because I can't use the classical app on my computer, this also probably doesn't affect me because I'm just still listening to the same playlists that I built before in Apple Music, because I can't listen to anything else because there is no Mac app. So when I'm sitting at my desk doing work and I have these beautiful Harman Kardon sound sticks that sit on my desk and I love to put music through them, and I can't do it with Apple Music Classical, even though I really want to, because that would be awesome because there's probably a lot more stuff there than there is in the regular Apple Music app, but I'll never know. So mostly I just listen to, like I said, the Baroque music playlists and the film score playlists that I
Guy.
I don't know what that was, Guy, but
If it's not Baroque, don't fix it.
I read a study that it's better for your brain, like it helps with retention and things. So like when I'm doing research and stuff for stuff that I do as part of my job, I will put on Baroque music because it helps me concentrate, and it actually does seem to work. So like, I don't know who decided that needed to be a study, but they did, and that's what they found. So that's usually what I end up listening to.
Okay.
So anyway, I would really like Jeff. I would very much like to have a reaction to this news, but until I can't.
No, I'm with you. I agree that I don't understand why they haven't expanded that app to other places, but
yeah, I can't even say Apple is serious about classical music, even though they're spending truckloads of money on labels and companies, because I have the app on my phone. I don't launch it. It could have been deleted off my phone without my knowledge, and I wouldn't even realize it because there's no value in the app on my iPhone. The last place in the world where I'm going to try to listen to quality level classical music.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it could have something to do with maybe somebody at Apple thinks it was a mistake not to buy into already existing content like they did with Apple TV and a few other things. And, you know, because they were all in with like, well, everything that we do is going to be original content. In the meantime, Netflix and Hulu and all the other services like slurped up all of the other content and had hundreds of thousands of hours of stuff that people could watch, while Apple, you know, forced you to watch Greyhound for 15 times because there wasn't much else on there. Not that Greyhound wasn't an okay movie, because it was just okay.
I think it's worse than that, Guy. I think it's because Apple completely screwed the pooch on the classical music app, and they had a point where they had to get something out the door, or it was going to become another what was the AirPad thing?
The AirMat, Power Mat?
The AirMat, Power Mat, whatever.
Welcome,
Power,
Matt.
I
don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Why even, I mean, unless you have content already ready to go.
But they did. They had bucket loads of content ready to go.
And here's the thing. They're Apple. They don't have to put it out until it's ready, and they can just say, I meant to do that, and everyone will believe it. And
I didn't believe it.
Once it's out, nobody will care once it's out. So if you need to wait a year, you know, if you need to channel your inner Nintendo Legend of Zelda game development and go, we're going to take a whole nother year and just polish this thing, who cares? I mean, we used to not get a release of a macOS release every September. We used to get them when they was ready. And maybe it was a year, maybe it was 3. You didn't know. So like, they're Apple. They can just put it out when they decide to put it out. And, you know,
but were those days so bad?
Behold the glory of Apple Music Classical, and that would have been that. And you know, it didn't have to be like there's Jeff. It's Chaffin's razor. There's more to this story, and we just don't know what it is because it's ludicrous the way it's gone so far.
Yeah, and I think the part that Apple's not talking about publicly is they completely screwed up their app, but still felt they needed to have something out by the deadline they set. So they dropped an iPhone only thing, and the whole system is just kind of worthless right now.
Yeah.
Then why not just wait until it is ready? I mean, and again, this goes back to what you were talking about with sometimes we wouldn't get an update for the macOS for a year or 2 years or 3 years. But when we finally got a macOS update, it was usually pretty good, pretty stable, and worth getting. And we paid $129 for it. Now we get it for free every single year. And the moment we sit there with bated breath, with our hands
sometimes I want to refund
as we're about to hit that button to say, go ahead and do the update. And which apps is this going to break?
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to this topic. Next story here. This is in Mac Rumors. Didn't get Apple Care Plus? Getting your iPhone repaired may extend your eligibility up to 2 years. Apple in recent months began providing customers in the U.S. an extended opportunity to purchase Apple Care Plus coverage for their iPhone after a qualifying out of warranty repair at an Apple store or an authorized service provider. And Apple reviewed this from an internal documentation they got from Apple. I'm sorry, the Mac Rumors did that. The so-called Apple Care Plus enrollment exception policy happened in late 2021, but it was limited to 1 year after the iPhone saw original purchase date, but now the eligibility window has been extended to 2 years after purchase for iPhones in the U.S. only, I must stress. And this is Apple Store's authorized service providers who only inform customers that this policy exists after the iPhone has been serviced and the customer has 10 days to act on it. So normally you would only have 60 days to get it after you bought the iPhone originally. But yeah, they've been pretty flexible with this, and I knew this was happening a lot. But again, there's no guarantees that this is ever going to could always be honored. It all really depends on the day. But I think it's good to see that Apple is looking to expand people's availability of having Apple Care Plus. Honestly, folks, get Apple Care Plus on your iPhone. You should not get it. I mean,
every mobile device makes.
It saved my butt a million times. I mean, you drop it, they'll take care of it. It's not like you need protection. What do you think, Kelly?
I agree. I also like the opportunity to extend that. This is the kind of little nugget of information I can file away for when people go, Apple's making phones obsolete on purpose. They're trying to force me to buy a new one by putting out they put out something new, so now I have to buy it and I'm mad. Like, no, you don't. You can, in some instances you can extend the repairability on the one that you already have. And, we're going to talk about why that's past a certain point. That's not a good idea. I know that's coming up next, right. But you can definitely get, you can drive that sucker till the wheels fall off and it will be fine. And, this is just more evidence that Apple stands behind the stuff they sell. Like, yeah, if you drop it and crack the screen, we will put a new screen on it and we will give you the opportunity to continue to, use that and get more Apple Care on anyway. Plus, for all the people who buy it and don't use it or use it once, that's just free money for Apple. So,
yeah, it's part of
which will be the majority of people that buy it, really. I mean, it's not like every single person that buys an iPhone is going to drop it or break it.
No, well, and if they do, they may not necessarily take it in. So, yeah.
You don't
so that's
have to
also
self-insure yourself and pay out of the nose.
It's why you buy car insurance. It's why you buy home insurance. It's why you buy any kind of insurance.
Exactly.
Not necessarily because you expect a tornado is going to come down and rip the roof off your house. But if it does,
then I don't have to
We live on this device. We got to have it.
Yeah.
It can't not be protected.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Jeff?
If you have a portable device from Apple that has a display of any kind, you buy Apple Care, period. Because all it takes is one drop and Apple Care has paid for itself because it covers that screen for you.
Because you don't have to buy a new device.
Right.
Yep.
So there you go. Giving people an extension on that, great. And if you haven't bought Apple Care, but you're still in a window where you can, go ahead and get it. Yes, you're gambling at this point, but it's smart gambling because your gamble is I'm going to break my device, and Apple's gamble is you are not going to break your device. This is how insurance works, and one of you wins, and what you hope is that it's Apple that wins because it means your device never was broken and didn't have to be out of your possession for any length of time.
Right. All right. So let's move on to one last story here. This, I think, was a humorous story. This was 9 to 5 Mac. It's the iPadOS 17 finally lets you use a Game Boy camera for your FaceTime calls because why not? Federico Vertucci is the one, he's done some wild things over the Mac stories. He's done that in the past, but he's back at it again here with a new story on this. He explains that the iPadOS 17 support for USB video class devices opens up a world of possibilities for iPad users, including finally being able to use a Game Boy camera for FaceTime video calls. This is Federico's crazy is his best, and no one else in their right mind would ever even think of trying this, right? So they go through a lot of specifics on how to do this, and I think this is cool because I won't say who I've been working with, but there are some video clients out there that I've been beta testing that they're really looking to expand upon the iPad's flexibility of using external cameras, and this is a good example of it because being able to have a front and be a content creator and using an iPad is going to be so much easier. Having your front and back cameras, and iPadOS 17 is going to make it even more flexible. Guy, you're laughing. I know you'd be all over this, right?
Sure. With this Game Boy. Why wouldn't I use a Game Boy camera from 20 years ago?
Why not?
No, I mean, this is it's insane that Federico thought of even trying this, and frankly I applaud him for doing so, and I wish I had thought of it first.
There you go. How about you, Jeff?
Well, if you needed any reason to upgrade to iOS 17 when it's available, you now have it.
Here it is.
Here it is. I'm also disappointed that I no longer have a Game Boy. Sadly, I didn't have the foresight 20 years ago to keep mine, or 30 years, however long ago it was, when we all were rocking our Game Boys and we were all kick-ass for it. I want to do this. I want to do FaceTime calls with friends on a Game Boy camera, because why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There might be an uptick on eBay for people finding Game Boys and buying them.
Listen, everybody wants green 5 frames a second video to send to their friends and loved ones.
Why not?
Maybe we can get an update like to Camo or something that makes our 4K cameras appear as if they're a Game Boy camera. I would pay for that.
I would subscribe to Game Boy camera mode. I absolutely would. That'd be amazing.
Anything? Your thoughts on it, Kelly?
I love everything happening here. I am fundamentally a very, very silly person. And so things like this always please me, because it's just another one of those moments when it turns out I'm not the only person in the world who does this sort of thing. We bought one of those Christmas light displays that has the Bluetooth speaker, so it'll play music with your Christmas lights, but also it will sync the music to the Christmas lights. And so, I went outside and I have a little video of like Christmas music playing with the lights all doing the thing. But then, of course, I also have a song by an industrial band that is that samples Daleks, and so you can watch my lights flash to exterminate, annihilate, destroy, because that pleases me, because I'm fundamentally a very silly person. So something like this, people who figure out how to hook an OG 1,000-pound Apple extended 2 keyboard to their iPad Pro so they can type on it, like, there's a special place in my heart for that kind of activity, because I just like knowing I live in a timeline where that's a thing that happens. And so I love all of this. And part of what I love about this is the fundamental ridiculousness of it. And Ticci himself called it ridiculous. So I know I'm on pretty firm ground there, but also because this kicks open, again, a door of possibility for what people can do with an iPad. And that's the thing that so many people like Ticci, like me, like Jeff, like this is one of the kinds of things that has been missing for so long, when people talk about like, oh, it's handicapped, or oh, it's been kneecapped and it's never going to be a real computer and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm not looking to Apple to do anything but give us the Lego base and hand that to developers and let them stack whatever bricks on it they want to make something awesome. We just need the plate. And this is one of those moments where Apple gave us the Lego plate, and now somebody's going to be able to go do really interesting stuff with it. So this is another one of those moments with the iPad where I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with it now that Apple has made this possible. Because I never wanted Apple to do all the work. I just wanted Apple to make it possible for people who were interested to be able to make these kinds of things work, because that's how you get the computer that works for you, is by having the potential there to do the kinds of things you need to do or want to do, like hook up a Game Boy. And I love everything about it.
See, now I want to see Quentin Tarantino do his 10th and last movie on a Game Boy camera.
Using a Game Boy camera.
It could happen.
It could happen.
It would be epic.
You've put that out into the universe now, guys.
I did.
Think about what you've done.
No, I am good about it. I am so good with this. I want to see this. Even if somebody just wants to channel their inner Tarantino, please get a Game Boy camera and film something that looks like Pulp Fiction with it. Thank you.
Just do a couple close-ups on feet and a couple gunshots. Yeah. You've got a Tarantino movie on your Game Boy.
And some classic 70s music.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's go on to the topics for this week. Before we do that, though, I make sure I want to shout out everybody. It's in the chat tonight. It's youtube.com/intouchwithiOS. We miss you, Ben. Ben couldn't make it on the show tonight, but he's there in spirit with us in the chat room. Shout out to Ben. Glad you're out there. But let's go ahead and talk about some very important updates I mentioned earlier. This week, it was announced today as we record this. So super important to go out, update all of your devices. This has to do with iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and watchOS. It's a very, very active and exploited vulnerability. This is 16.6.1 for iOS, and for macOS, Ventura 13.5.2, as well as watchOS 9.6.2 is the versions that I just did all my mass updates a little while ago. Very important to have this, and it does what the security issue is in all of those OSs, the processing a maliciously crafted image could lead to arbitrary code execution, allowing hackers to gain access to your operating system with a simple picture. Apple fixed the image I/O process by addressing a buffer overflow issue for memory handling. So it's getting a little techy here, but it is super important. Thanks for putting in the show notes too. This was the article by the citizenlab.ca. Really goes through the detail of the blast pass exploit chain. And like I said, we won't go too deep into the weeds here with this, but let's put it this way: this is a very serious update that you need to have done now. I mean, Apple doesn't jump on, especially when we're this close to the next version of iOS coming out, 17. Yeah, so we're very, very close. They knew that this was a super vulnerable thing that had to be done. So,
especially when the bulk of the update notes is you need to run this. Yeah. It needs to be installed. The less detail that you get about an OS update, especially like you were saying, David, on this kind of schedule, the less information there is, the more you need to do it. They are in direct relation to each other. So if they basically just say it fixes a vulnerability, you need to drop everything and go run it immediately, because it means it is so bad they don't want to put it in the security. It'll come out later. You'll see it later what it actually was. But otherwise it's really bad. And so like we've had a few of these in the last year and a half where it was you just need to install the system update. It's a thing that's happening, and you need to get in on it immediately. And that's like all the information that you get about it. And the reason for that is so they're not publishing how people can do bad stuff to your stuff with their stuff. So they try to keep that kind of as secret as they can. And so by the way they do that is going, again, with the Jedi hand wave, you need to run an update, and then that's all they will say, at least at first. So I'm glad it's out, and I'm glad that they turned it around as fast as they did. This is a very, very serious exploit. So one of the things that always used to sort of help people was you could give everyone a rule of don't click on things, don't click on it, don't click on the attachment, don't click on the link, don't click on the whatever. But this doesn't need you to click. And that's the stuff like that where all someone has to do is send it to you and wait. Those are really, truly terrifying. And that's what this one is. So it's terrible. And you can stop it by making sure your system's up to date.
Please do. Do you have anything else to add, Jeff or Guy?
I did the update just before we started tonight.
Yep, I did that earlier today.
I'm curious about the technical aspect of, how Apple can push out important security updates without your intervention. What makes it where it's something they can push out and just have it on your phone versus something where they have to roll out an updater that you have to run, like we got today? And I don't expect any of us to have the answer. I'm just curious. So maybe I'll look that up at some point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So go out there, update it, tell your family, tell your friends. I just texted my family not too long ago, let them know and make sure you update your iPhone. It's important. And then let's move on to beta this week. Beta 8 of iOS 17, iPadOS 17, and all the other betas are still continuing. There's been a bit of a rumor that they've been saying that this version could possibly be the final shipping version, and they couldn't just convert it right to release candidate who knows? It could be tomorrow as we record this, or on Monday the next week before the event. So hard to say, but it's pretty solid. Many of us here have been using it for a bit, and I think we've been in good shape when it comes to that. The
I have something to
beta
add on that.
Oh yeah, please, thank you.
I installed this beta on my iPad today, and this is why betas are betas. For some reason, my iPad now tells me that the passcode that I used to log into it is not the correct one. I can't log into my iPad after installing the latest iPadOS 17 update.
Well, interesting you say that, because at least on the iPhone, I have an article in the show notes here about the fact that you are not going to be able to change to a new passcode if you forget it. They give you up to 72-hour grace period to do it without being locked out of your device, and there's a description of how that works and how to do it. But they are specifically talking about the iPhone, so I don't know if that's going to work.
No, it's iPadOS 17 as well.
Did they say it? Okay, I didn't go through.
I'll play with it. Maybe there's something I can do there and get back in. But this is why it's my sacrificial iPad.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
I always say that.
I can wipe this thing and start over, and I'll be fine.
Yep.
If it was a production machine, I'd be kind of screwed right now.
Absolutely.
I'm very unhappy. Very unhappy. So that's out there. So be aware of that. But this is definitely going to be interesting to see where it goes. And the other thing too, that I have a link here, is the fact that there's rumors saying that iOS 17 and iPadOS 17 will be likely released simultaneously. Unlike last year, there was quite a separation.
A long time.
Last year, like I think the iPadOS didn't come out for another almost 2 months after iOS.
A long time.
16 came out. So it's looking like Apple has some confidence that iPadOS is pretty solid, that they don't think they would have to do that this year. So,
well, quite frankly, they should. There's really, the difference between iOS and iPadOS is it's a hair's bit of difference as compared to going to the macOS. So the fact that you've got iOS is ready to go and iPadOS for reasons is not the only reason I could think of is that they've got new iPads in the works that they want to get out with the brand new OS. Other than that, it's like, just release them both at the same time. Get on with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every year is never dull when we follow this. It's always something different. All the years that all of us here have been covering Apple, it's never been a dull moment when it comes to
not one
OS releases. So why not keep it exciting for us? So let's go ahead and move on. And yes, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Apple is going to have a big announcement. This is the pre-episode of this event. The event's going to be happening on Tuesday, September 12th. It's almost guaranteed that they're going to be announcing a brand new iPhone, the iPhone 15, as all the rumors have been set. And it is definitely something that's going to be exciting, I think. I mean, I always get excited when a new iPhone comes out, and I always get it. So you always get to hear about it. So I think it's going to be a really great thing to see. And many of the features that are going to be available we've been talking about. There's a number of different features they're talking about with the iPhone, including a titanium frame, which will weigh less, and a bit. Of course, we're always going to get the faster processor. Wi-Fi 6E is going to be another thing, but the biggest thing that's going to happen is USB-C, and it's almost a guarantee at this point that it's going to happen because of the EU. Apple had forced their hand. They obviously did not want to make two different versions of the iPhone for not in the EU as well as other countries, including the US. So they're definitely going to be they're definitely going to be changing it from what everybody says to the USB-C from Lightning. It's been a long time with Lightning, over 10 years since we've had the Lightning connector. So I think it was due. So they also are looking to do a much more vast improvement. And Ben, we talked with him last week. He actually, I have a link in the show notes with his blog post that he talked about. This was a long time coming. It was overdue. We really needed to get this universalized. And if anything, I think this is an opportunity that maybe iPhone sales will even go up higher in a lot of more Android conversion because of the fact of having a USB-C port, which that's been on the Android devices for quite some time. So that is definitely going to be something interesting to see when it comes to the iPhone. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on where you think the iPhone would? Any predictions of what you think with the iPhone 15 beyond what they've been talking about?
Well, I've been steadfast in my belief that USB-C is not coming to the iPhone. And at this point, I fully expect that on Tuesday, Apple will prove me wrong and we will get iPhones with USB-C. And someone pointed out on one of my social medias yesterday or today that when Phil Schiller was on stage at whichever iPhone event where the Lightning port was introduced, they actually told us this port is for 10 years. They said this is the port on the iPhone for the next 10 years. Said that specifically, which if they were intentionally telegraphing that to us, they're right on schedule to retire the Lightning port. That's because true. It's been 10 years.
Yeah, it was the 5, right?
I don't even remember now.
The 4 and the 4S are 30 pin. So I think it was the 5 with the extra row of icons and the whole new cable.
Yeah, I think that was more along the lines of just to try and blunt a lot of the criticism that people had because they were retiring in the 30-pin connector, which is what, the iPod was using. It's what the iPhone was using. And a lot of people had, for reasons, bought into 30-pin connector devices that, their iPhones and other devices would connect to. And basically, Apple was like, look, no, we know you invested money in the 30-pin connector, but this is a much better port. As far as USB-C goes, I know Apple would love to sell us a phone that doesn't have any ports in it whatsoever. But quite frankly, I don't think most people are ready for a world like that. So instead of continuing to use a connector that nobody else in the world uses, the fact that they've gone to USB-C, which is what everybody is using now, and they helped kind of pioneer this connector and bring it in, then why not? Just stop complaining about something that you say the EU is forcing you to do, Apple, and just embrace it. Just embrace it, bring it in. You now have USB-C on your phone, just like everybody else, so people don't have to buy different types of connectors and different types of cables for some of their different devices.
Well,
the other side of that is that the iPhone will now have the same hot mess connector that every other phone has. The connector where it's like, which cable do I use? Why doesn't this charge the way I expect it to? What do you mean I can't get data through? Oh, wait, now the data is working. Why doesn't data go very fast on this? Because the whole cable thing for USB-C is just a dumpster fire. And
it's a disaster.
Yeah. And so I think that a lot of people will be pissed off because their iPhone doesn't charge as fast as it should because they're using some $5 USB-C cable that they got at a gas station.
Dollar General.
Yeah, Dollar General. By the way, Dollar General over here, I walked by it the other day, and in Sharpie on the sign in the window, it said $1.25.
I thought Dollar General was
inflation.
Insurance.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's
like
generally
Dollar
a dollar.
Tree.
Yeah, it's generally a dollar.
Yeah, at this point, generally. Anyhow,
Dollar-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think USB-C is the magic fix that everyone's hoping for, and I'm waiting until I get an iPhone with USB-C, and then I will bite the bullet, and I will spend the stupid money that I'm going to have to spend to get a couple. What are they calling them? Jesus cables, because it connects to everything, does maximum bandwidth from Thunderbolt down to USB-C, and can handle whatever voltage or wattage you're gonna pump through it. So I can have one cable to rule them all and use it with everything, and I don't have to worry about if it's the right cable or not. And I'll get
somebody eventually will come up with not so much a standard, but with packaging on the outside saying, this is the cable that you can use for all of your iPhones and all of your iPads and every other Apple device that you have out there, and that'll be the cable that you choose.
I have one of those.
If you want to buy cables, if you want to buy a cable from $1.25 General or $1.25 Dollar Tree, then okay, but it may or may not work the way that you expect.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't think it's Thunderbolt, but it'll do at least 100-watt charging, which will be a 16-inch laptop.
Yep. I have that same cable.
Solid cable. I just bought a real short one because I wanted one that was real short. But also because Jeff, you and I both have a Nintendo Switch and probably have an auxiliary location where that charges. Because I have I have other technology, and I knew a lot of stuff was going to end up being USB-C anyway. When I got my laptop, my M1 laptop a couple of years ago, and it was my first USB-C computer, I bought a couple of solid USB-C cables, so I knew I could charge it, and I could have one that lives in my backpack. So if I go anywhere, I know I have charging, and a solid charger to go with that. So I think a lot of people are going to be mad, but they're only going to be mad for a minute. We were just talking about this on the after show. It's going to be one of those, you have that cable now. You already use it for your Switch, your Steam Deck, your drone remote control, your PlayStation controller, your Xbone controller, all of those. That little oval thing is the thing that Apple's trying to give you now, the one that you already got with your computer, the one that you were mad about when your watch cable wouldn't plug into the square charger that you got with your original iPhone 4. That thing is the thing that you're going to get, and then people are like, oh, because also the landscape has changed dramatically. Jeff, I know you said that USB-C is a garbage fire, and that's true if you are trying to do very many specific things. If you want Thunderbolt throughput, you're gonna have a bad time. If you want data only or not data, you're gonna have a bad time because you have to do a ton of research. But the abundance of cables that's out there, this is not the smoking crater in your Visa that the Lightning upgrade was, because at least initially you could either buy a really stupidly expensive one from Belkin or a just dumb expensive one from Apple, and those were your choices. And now
good times.
You have Ugreen and JSOX and
Monoprice,
Smartish and there's one I'm not naming, and there's a reason for that, and that's another podcast. But there are so many Rolling Square, who makes the cable that I'm holding up on the live stream. There are many, many options for a very solid, very useful, high-speed charging, high-speed data cable that did not exist, for many years of Lightning phones. So if we go to USB-C and people go, wait a minute, you're telling me that with this Apple silicone machine that has I can effectively use for a couple 3 days before I plug it in, if I just pull that power cord out of the side of that and poke it in the bottom of my phone, it'll be fine? Yes. Now I'm not mad.
And I agree. For a lot of people, it won't matter. It's still a hot mess.
For the specific, I'm absolutely not denying it's a garbage fire, but you don't necessarily have to go into it buying a $50 cable in order to make sure that you're getting what you're getting, because even for $50, you may not be getting the thing that you're actually, trying for. So if you're somebody who has a specific USB-C connector need, then you need to find your friendly neighborhood IT person, buy them a beverage, and get them to tell you what you need to look for in order to get the cable that you need. I think most people for most things are going to be fine. I have a car charger that runs a USB-C cable from the lighter to the MagSafe thing, and then the MagSafe, when I hook my phone to it, then it's magnetic. It magnets to it, and then it MagSafe charges my phone. So that's awesome. And when I upgraded the car charger in my car, my phone just charged faster. So that was great. So, there's lots of those things already exist in the world that you could, potentially already be using. And if you just pay a little bit of attention to the stuff that you have in your house, you can do that. Or like I told a friend of mine on social media the other day, if you need more USB A to C cables, what you do is you take an iPod full of Barry White and you stick it in a drawer with 2 USB A to C cables, and you wait, and then you have more cables at the end.
All right,
that totally works.
It does work. Let me get to the chat here.
Too.
Let me get to the chat here real quick in the YouTube live stream here. Ben's got a good comment here. It says, my mom is confused as to why her iPad can't use the same cable as her she's confused as to why her iPad can't use the same cable as her, I think he meant her iPhone. Because you're right. I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to help with folks like that. They aren't going to, when they have an iPad and an iPhone now, and assuming they have the more later versions of the iPad, those are all USB-C now. The other thing I wanted to mention too, I did find an article here actually that was written today as we record this on 9 to 5 Mac, and it was a history lesson about when Phil Schiller unveiled the Lightning connector ahead of the and ahead of our switch to the USB-C. Ironically, it was September 12th, 2012. I mean,
there we go.
It's a whole other year. You people are welcome. You got 11 years out of
But it's the exact same date. So we're going to get USB-C more than likely 11 years later, and on the same exact date. And it was the iPhone 5. You were right, Kelly, that was the first iPhone that switched from the 30 pin to the Lightning.
So we got extra out of our investment in all of our Lightning cables. Okay.
An extra year.
We need to stop complaining, and I need to get over it. We got an extra year.
Yeah. So take a look at it's kind of a fun history lesson to go back. I remember vividly watching that keynote when Phil came on stage to talk about Lightning. We got kind of excited, and everybody else so disgruntled and like, why would I got all these 930 pin connectors, and then people buying those ridiculous big giant adapter to a Lightning connector and plugging it in because they had to keep their cable. And so I don't think it's
if you had an iHome clock radio. You needed that.
You needed that, as well as the what was that? The hi-fi, the Apple Hi-Fi,
iPod Hi-Fi,
iPod Hi-Fi.
Times.
Yeah. Well, that was
and then you had to worry that your phone was going to break with the connector is going to break in the phone, because the only thing holding the phone upright at that point was the dubious Lightning connector on the 30-pin adapter.
Yep.
Good times.
It was very good times. One other thing, the things that we're probably expecting is in hardware. They've been pretty much rumoring, and this is all Mark Gurman, who's very good of getting a lot of really good information from the rumor mill from Bloomberg, that the AirPods Pro are going to get a USB-C charging case. Of course, I didn't even mention the fact that the name of this event is Wonderlust. I still don't know what the hell that is, but okay.
I thought it was an Oasis song.
Yeah,
that's Wonderwall.
That was Wonderwall.
Right.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes with the AirPods Pro 2. And I also want to know, are you from what they're saying, they may not even come out with new ones. They're going to be the same ones, just the case will have USB-Cs from what they're saying. And are they going to sell the case if someone who has all of us who have the Lightning case, can we switch it to the USB-C case? If we think back, they did do that when they got the newer version that had Wi-Fi charging. Wireless charging capabilities.
The OG AirPods, when they got the wireless charging, you could just buy a case.
You were able to get a case for that. So there hasn't been any much rumblings about that. So, so this sounds like it's going to be a pretty high focused iPhone event, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of other things that they're going to get announced as well.
Lots of portable device updates.
Yeah, I think it's going to be.
Don't expect any Mac stuff.
Yeah, no Mac stuff,
Mac.
no TVs.
No
but
iPad.
I bet we get a watch. We might get an
the
iPad
watch.
nudge.
I didn't even talk about the watch.
They could do an iPad update.
They could do a mini if you're supposed to carry it around with you everywhere. I've heard pockets that will hold an iPad mini, so it's possible that maybe we'll get a new mini.
With the watch,
Apple start making pants with pockets big enough to hold these things.
That's just ridiculous. Carhartt already does, but
fair point
for me. But yeah,
yep. What pants?
But
I mean, they're also talking rumors on the Apple Watch that potentially that Apple's switching their manufacturing, that they might be 3D printing watches that have instead of the normal manufacturing that they've been doing. There was, of course, a pretty hardcore rumor, so I was kind of like,
why would they do that?
Somebody said once
metal 3D printing.
Yeah.
Why? Stamping is faster.
At scale, I can't.
But they're not stamping.
Yeah.
They're doing molds.
Okay, well, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. Really,
I'm with you. Why? But at the same time, well, that's cool.
Yeah,
certainly not for metal. I don't expect that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and there's a number of things, but I'm not going to hit on all these rumors because just watch the event. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got links, all kinds of links in the show notes, including Mark Ehrman's Power On newsletter that he sends out every week from Bloomberg, which is an open, free one you can read. So you'll have behind that paywall. Take a look at that as well as all the other stuff that's there as well. Go ahead.
I came up with a reason to do 3D. It's less wasteful. So with molds and machining, which is what you're doing right now with the watch frame, you potentially have less waste if you're doing metal 3D printing. Mm-hmm. That's all I've got.
Yeah,
that would make
I'll
sense.
put a link in the show notes. So some of that discussion.
That's the kind of thing that Apple would decide to do for those kinds of reasons. Like there's no scrap at this point, So yeah, I could see it.
Yep, I'll have an article in the show notes. Macworld did a discussion about this, and you can take a look at that for yourself. A couple of things I want to talk about before we wrap up this week. Backups. I was talking to somebody and I wanted to talk a little bit about backups, specifically backing up your messages so you don't lose them. There's so many people who just completely rely on iCloud's backing everything up for me and I don't have to worry about it. And then when they go to restore it and they realize, well, wait a minute, where are all my messages? All my messages are gone. What? Years and years of messages, and that's probably one of the biggest problems besides photos of the bulk of the size of your backup is because people save everything in their messages app with the photos and graphics and everything that they're sending back and forth. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you should be doing redundancy. You should be doing alternate backups in addition to your iCloud. Now, yes, I fully promote having iCloud as a backup mechanism, and you definitely have to get at the very least 200 gig service for iCloud. Don't bother with the 50 gigs unless you really don't have a lot of stuff. I mean, I think maybe some people will be okay with that. I have a family plan as part of the Apple One bundle. It's 2 terabytes. that really is helping my family, and we're only using a little over half of it. So I still have a ton more space left. So it isn't a big deal. Maybe 50 will work with you if you want, if that's your budget, but go with 200. I think it's the best way of doing it. But that's the first most primary thing, the way you got to back things up. But the second thing you always got to do is you should also do is you should be backing up using the Finder and connecting your iPhone to your Mac, and do a backup to an external drive, so that it'll do a full backup of the entire iPhone as well. And that's another good way of backing things up. And doesn't hurt to do that. The third one I always talk about and absolutely love this application, and that's iMazing. I think iMazing is well worth the investment to having this, being able to back things up. What's the amazing thing about iMazing is the fact that when you run the app, you can get to that backup, and if you need a copy of a text a message from Messages or anything, you can get to it and be able to export it. And that's one of the best things with Messages is the fact of being able to export a message you had dialogue with somebody into a PDF, or you can export to any number of other formats. And I tell you, that probably comes in handy a lot of times, especially in the legal world, because you watch all these court shows, and everybody always has text messages to prove whatever they're proving in the court of law, and they have everything printed out, they have everything electronic, and this app alone makes it super easy to be able to get what you need, and not only that, but any of the settings, and you just have a really granular access to your backup, and being able to access it even more deeply than you can with iCloud, because iCloud is so limited when it comes to getting to it. So,
and it's mysterious. That's the other thing about iCloud that I find really frustrating is the iCloud backup backs up stuff, not all. But which, who can say? No one knows. It's all a mystery. So I wanted to tack on, first of all, iMazing, not yet a sponsor of In Touch with iOS, but also the rule for backup is that I heard a long time ago, probably from your friend and mine, Bob Levitas, was 1, 2, 3, or the 3, 2, 1 rule, I guess, is of backups.
Right.
Your data should live in a minimum of 3 places. You should be using 2 different methods to do that. So if one of them, so don't time machine twice, use time machine and then something else. And one of those places, one of those copies of your data should not live in the same place as you.
Right.
So yeah, three sets of data, 2 different methods, and at least 1 offsite. And the other thing that I wanted to say about iMazing, because I wanted to tack on, I too adore iMazing. I use it constantly.
Me too.
iMazing gives you, first of all, amazing text message backup. Second of all, it gives you transparency. We talked about it at the top of the show. You can see exactly what you're backing up, and you can decide, I don't need all those gigabytes of text messages, or I only need all those gigabytes of text messages. And you can do things like, I'm going to go on a trip, so I'm going to do a complete backup of my phone. And maybe I'm traveling to some place where it wouldn't be a great idea for me to have anything particularly interesting on my phone. So I can now that I've created this backup, I can preserve it on my computer, leave my computer at home, nuke my phone, install the 2 things I'm going to actually need while I'm gone. And then if anybody, if I get searched at a border crossing or something, here, my phone is boring. You can't, there's nothing interesting in it. Here you go. Right. And when I come home, I can restore that previous backup and have my phone back. And it will save, much like Time Machine, it will save incremental backup. So you can do things like that. I'm going to install a beta. And now I can't get into it because it decided my passcode
like that
is wrong.
Would ever happen.
Hypothetically, like I've heard people say things like this. So then you can plug it in and go, I don't want today's backup, I want yesterday's backup. And it will give you, that point in time. It also does voicemail. I have saved so many people's voicemail bacon by doing this, because there's not an easy or an obvious way to do it otherwise. So people come to me and go, I have this voicemail from this person I can't ever get voicemail from again, and I want to save it. And every time, and 100% of the time, I plug it into iMazing, it saves it, and then it's just a file on my computer. I have this audio file. What would you like me to do with it? Do you want me to put it on a CD? Do you
and
want
then
it
they
on a flash
cry.
drive? Whatever. And then, yeah, like it's
They cry.
unbelievable. But also, like the other thing that about iMazing that is awesome that I think sometimes even people who like it don't always know about is you don't have to plug your phone into your computer anymore. You can set up the Wi-Fi backup, and then as long as your phone is in the vicinity, then you get a backup, and you can decide what that backup is. Maybe it's just your apps, maybe it's only your text messages, like you can adjust what all of those things are, where it lives. If you have like an external hard drive you want to make a copy to, that gets backed up elsewhere somewhere, you can do it that way. And that also really, really helps. And I think in my day job, I have had people who didn't bother with iCloud backup or didn't have any other way, like never hooked their phone and their computer up. They had no relation, the phone and the computer had no relationship, and dropped it and it was obliterated and Apple couldn't recover anything, or it got lost forever. It's never coming back. And now they have no starting point for their data. And that kind of thing usually will kind of get people on the backup bandwagon. But the thing I try to explain to people is you want to be on that bandwagon before you need to be on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's say I pick up your phone and this is an example I use with people all the time. Suppose I pick up your phone and walk away with it and you never get it back. What now?
Yeah.
I'm completely screwed. Yeah, we can fix that. Here's how.
Yep.
So, same with your computer. Most people's computers don't go as many places with them as their phones, but whether the loss of the phone was an embarrassing story or not, it does happens to people all the time. Before everybody carried around a computer in their pocket, when I worked for a company doing hard drive support, the statistic we were always given was at least 50% of people will experience data loss on a computer at some point, and at least 25% of people and like 25% of people actually back up. This was in the era before Time Machine, so I would like to think that number is higher. It may not be, but that's a whole lot of people who are going to lose data and not be able to do anything about it. So don't be that guy.
Don't, please. Yeah. So highly recommend that what we just discussed, and we'll have links in the show notes of iMazing. And anything you need to know about backing up your complete backup of your phone, even do it with your iPad. I think it's important to do both. If you have an iPad as well, make sure you're backing all that stuff up. So and take care of that. So one more topic I want to hit real quick here is a couple of us on this panel. I think it's just including myself and Jeff. We were talking about this on Mac Voices Live a couple weeks ago, that we all joined this new social media called Spoutable. And I'm actually pretty impressed with how it's grown and how it has some interaction. And Jeff, what have been your initial thoughts with Spoutable since you joined?
Well, I joined back when you could first get in.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And so for me, it's a comparison now, because when I got into Spoutable, it was like walking into a big room that has nothing in it.
Yeah.
And way at the far end, there was someone, and they were looking at the wall, so they didn't even know I was there. And now there's a bunch of people in the room. So, in the beginning, it was worse than an echo chamber. It was like an anechoic chamber. And now there's activity, and it feels like it's really coming to life. It
seems so. And I think we just kind of it was I think it was brought up when Chuck Joyner did his survey of all the different social media availability out there, and Spoutable came up, and I'm like, what is that? So I didn't even know about it either. So then we joined. So I think it's kind of a fun place, and it's not as noisy, of course, as X, and just as an additional way of interacting. So I don't, Callie, you haven't even joined Blue Sky, so I know you're probably going to be resistant to this too. So
it's not so much that I'm resistant as much as I don't one of the benefits of Twitter slowly burning to the ground is that I spend less time on social media. So I don't have I spend way more time on Mastodon than I probably should anyway. But I like it there, and that's pretty much it. So
that's what's great about having choices.
Yeah. So I like it there. And it's fun and weird, and I get to have random entertaining conversations with people. And it like all kinds of people, which is also the part that's really fun. It's got that very early Twitter vibe of you can randomly say something to somebody and have them totally reply to you, and that's pretty neat. And so I haven't put the patience into any of the others, and part of the reason for that is because I used to be the person. I signed up for Friend Feed, and what was the one that had the horrible? There was one that had a horrible name, and there were others that all kind of wanted to be Twitter, and there was like Identica and Elo and like Plurk. It was called Plurk, and like the feed went the wrong direction.
I forgot about that one.
There are so many more that I have forgotten, and like all of them, like I just got so tired of having to go prowl through and look for like the people I know who follow absolutely everybody, so I can just go look through their followers list and find all the people I was looking for anyway, and have to go do all the thing again. And like I don't have the enthusiasm for it anymore. And I think part of that is just having spent a long time on Twitter and then watching it burn to the ground. But also just like I'm kind of waiting to sort of see who wins, and I know that because I'm not name steading, then I'm not going to get the username I want on any of these services anymore. But I'm not resistant to them as much as it's just sort of like
burnout.
Is it going to be here in another 6 months for me to even care about? Because there were a whole bunch of them that like totally were not.
Yep.
So,
okay, you've been kind of stepping back a little bit from social media too. Is something you might want to explore?
I actually had never heard of it before this conversation, but I have it up on a webpage right now, and I'll take a look at it. Probably not tonight, but sometime in the near future. I've been, I've been kind of stepping away from a lot of social media. I'm ashamed to say most of my social media stuff these days has been Facebook, but only because that's where like my kids are, and that's where and it doesn't fill me with joy that seems to be the main place that I'm at these days. I don't really, I've got a Mastodon account, I've got a Counter Social account, I've got accounts in all different kinds of social media sites that once I realized what they were all about, I pretty much was like, okay, I don't want to be anywhere near these. But of course, I keep getting mail from them saying, you haven't said anything in a long time. It's like, well, maybe there's a reason why. Parlor and some of those other ones, like, just leave me the hell alone. I don't want to talk to you anymore. But for the most part, I've found recently that social media is just such a dumpster fire of my opinion, or you're a terrible, horrible person. It's like, I just don't need that in my life right now.
Sure.
Who wants to be told that if you don't follow and believe 100% of everything that I do, then, you're this terrible person? It's like, no, I don't accept that, and I'm not going to deal with it. So for the most part, I don't go on Twitter or X or any of the other ones that I was a semi-regular of, and I'm finding that my life is improving in so many ways that I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. So check it out. I thought it was interesting to talk about. There is an iOS app as well as there's an iPad OS app, and you can install the iPadOS app on your Apple Silicon Mac if you want to as well. The iOS app needs a bit of improvement. I mean, I think the size is very small, and I think by standard's sake. So, but check it out. I think it's it's fun. If you want to have that, at least check it out, see if it is. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. So, before we go, I wanted to make an announcement here that MacStock's 7's the 2023 virtual pass is now available. You can relive the conference as you can go purchase the virtual pass. Yes, and we missed you dearly, both you, Kelly and Guy, that you weren't there this year, but there's always next year. But you get to see all the talks of all of our regular guests, including, of course, myself, as well as Brittany and Chuck and Jeff, and so we really had a great time, and it's not that terribly expensive. You get some great sessions to be able to see. Go to MacStockConferenceandExpo.com to check that out and sign up for that event. I watched back myself again. I was like, boy, I had a lot of fun. So
it's totally worth it, by the way, because that's how I did it this year, was virtually.
Good. Oh, that's right. You were there live, so you saw firsthand what we did. So please check that out. Support MacStock, and we're definitely going to have another MacStock next year. And you've, of course, Mike Potter's been on here many times talking about it. And please go ahead.
I hope he does it in the same way. Staying away from McHenry Community College.
Yeah, it was a nice little cozy event.
Change of pace
event.
Location. The venue and location that was really nice.
Yeah, at first I was a little skeptical because it was small, but we were so used to having the giant college, and but no, it really turned out good. So that you're going to enjoy all the great events, including, I didn't even mention Dave Hamilton and Mac Geek Gab, and that was an absolute blast seeing all the other hosts, and including Jonathan.
Something that no one has commented on yet. Yeah. Have you seen the photos of the Mac Geek Gab panel discussion?
I did.
Everyone's in shorts and I'm in pants.
I didn't even think of that.
If I had seen them, I absolutely would have noticed that.
Oh, you were. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even put two and two together, and I was there sitting in the front row.
It was one of the first things that I noticed when I saw the photo of all of us. It was like right before it started, and we're just chit chatting together up on the stage, and I looked, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only one with pants on.
That's too funny.
Not that everybody else was naked.
No,
they just didn't have pants on.
No right. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. Thanks for what a great show this week. We appreciate it. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastodon at intouchwithios. I'm on X as well. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you are notified when we are live streaming, which is at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. Great to have you in the chat this week, Ben. We'll look forward to having you back on the show next week. This is where you can also watch the current and past live streams and listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, just go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Twitter, on Mastodon at DaveG65, as well as X. And Kelly Gamet, I'm so thrilled you were back on the show. It was great to hear you on the after show this past week. I'm so glad that was back after a 9 or 10 month hiatus. But
in all of 2023 hiatus, yes. We figured it out. I think live on the show.
Yes.
That was our first show of 2023. Yeah, and for those concerned, as soon as we were done, we took a quick pit stop and then came back and recorded another show hot on the heels of the first one. So we have there's a whole nother one ready to go. We're gonna have 2 episodes in 2023.
Record.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. So that's back. The rest of the time you can occasionally find me in the Peanut Gallery Hill when I'm not actually on the show. And you can sometimes find me over on Mac Voices Live. And the rest of the time, I'm either playing Nintendo or I'm goofing off on Mastodon, where I am Verso at mastodon.social.
Great. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Guy Cyril, it was always great to have you back. It was way too long. I'm glad you're feeling better and we're able to have some fun with us tonight. Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me as Mac Parrot and Vert Shark over there on the X, Twitter, whatever. Yeah, that thing. I sometimes post, but for the most part, I just lurk and shrug my shoulders and go away. You can also find me over on Counter Social and Mastodon.social as Mac Parrot. If you want to send me an email, that would be guy@mymac.com. I have a Google Voice number related to the mymac.com podcast that I do with Gaz now for 14 or 15 years. And that number is 703-828-4677, 703-828-4677. And I'm looking forward to the plethora of calls that I'm sure I will get by giving that number out.
Thanks, Guy. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Where can people find you?
Well, thank you for letting me back on yet again. So for the socials, I'm Jay Gamet on basically everything. I'm posting on Mastodon and Instagram. And but here's the secret. Everything I post on Instagram, I have an IFT recipe set up that sends it to Mastodon. So if you want to just go to one place, just go to Mastodon. And there you go. I saved you some social network headaches. Then for shows, Chuck Joyner keeps letting me back on Mac Voices Live on Tuesdays. Dave keeps letting me back here on In Touch with iOS on Thursdays. Then on the British Tech Network on Thursdays, I'm your interim host for the big show, and then again on Fridays for the Mac show, and then Brian Chaffin and I record the Context Machine.
Great. Thanks for being here as always. I was going to mention, Guy, you said 14 years of My Mac. It's been a little over 7 years for this show. So so it's been quite a run, and we love doing this show.
Well, you started it right after that first Mac Stock.
I did.
Right? Yeah.
I did. Yep, I sure did. So it wasn't for having great guests like you guys, it would be a show. But I really love doing this, and I really appreciate you being here. And listeners, we appreciate you listening and watching, and we really appreciate it. And listening and watching, and we just have an absolute blast doing this. And until next time, we'll talk again soon.